Devaya Om. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyam Sundar, Radha Damodara, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Gonita, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So we're continuing with the Damodara Lila. Yesterday we reached up to the point where Krishna was abandoned in his opinion. And his opinion matters, of course. He's a Supreme Lord, but he's also a child at the same time. And he decided to cause a bit of a ruckus, and he has broken the churning pot. So this is very interesting times now. Let's see what happens next. The churn cracked in two, because Krishna was hoping to eat from that churn. And all the yogurt and butter contained therein spilled onto the floor, as did the yogurt in the pot he broke. This made Krishna even more angry, and splashing the spilled contents here and there, he resolved to raid the storeroom. Whoa, this is really going one step beyond where he's ever been before with his mother. The storehouse was adjoining the kitchen. It was here that Yashoda Mai stored cooking supplies like wheat, rice, spices, milk products in clay pots hanging from the ceiling. The room was dark and cool. Krishna also knew where the keys were kept hidden. So this is very interesting. He knew where the keys were hidden. It's only a 2-year-old boy. For Krishna, this was going into unknown territory. He was entering on uncharted waters. Never before had he been so daring. Although he was ruthless at the neighbors' homes, right? he didn't spare them at all. If he could cause them any grief, he would. He was always careful not to upset his mother at home. Good domestic conduct assured him of her royal protection from village complaints. But now his mood was, I don't care. Finding the key, he slipped it into the storeroom door lock. And this key was actually hidden in Mother Yashoda's private room. So it's quite interesting how he managed to find it and brought it to open up the storeroom. After opening the door, he entered the storeroom and closed the door behind him. It was pitch dark, but not for long. Invoking his divine effulgence, Krishna lit up the storeroom. He looked at the many pots hanging from the ceiling. They were too high for him to reach. He found a tall mortar in which his mother would grind the spices, and he used that mortar to reach the pots hanging from the ceiling. There you go. Removing a few pots with great effort, Krishna placed them on the ground. Then he crawled to the ground. Finally, he had what he wanted, yesterday's freshly churned butter. Ripping off the cloth coverings, he sampled the butter from each pot. The taste of the butter was incredible, but it was not like any other butter, because it was Yashoda Mai's love for him in the form of dairy or butter. Krishna continued to savor the butter, but he restrained himself from eating too much. He thought, if I overeat, the effect of this butter will subdue me, making me submissive to mother. And thus no more stealing and no more mischief, and bring this pastime to an end. He'd become a goody two-shoes, because the mother's love was so overbearing, overpowering, that it overpowered Krishna as well. When he enjoyed what she made with her pure devotion, it would make him come under her control. So he didn't eat too much. This is the reason he stole the neighbor's milk products and not his mother's. The neighbor's produce lacked the intensity of Yashoda Mai's love, and thus it lacked the same controlling power. He could eat that as much as he wanted. So, Chorastikam. We did that yesterday. Let's skip over that. Krishna could therefore freely plunder their homes without fear of being a docile duguda and the laughing stock of his friends. He had a reputation to maintain. And if he had turned into a goody two-shoes, well, he'll be a laughing stock of his friends. But this morning, Krishna's anger insulated him from the domesticating effects of his mother's butter. And in ecstasy, he was relishing the special taste of her labor, although he was acutely aware that his mother could show up at any moment. So he was eating, but he had one eye on what his mother was doing. There was also a problem as he was relishing this special treat. It caused his anger to subside, giving rise to the fear of his mother's reaction to the mayhem he has caused. So that anger gave way to fear. He thought, what will happen when mother sees the mess I made? There he is looking, seeing where is she? Is she coming? He's enjoying the butter. He's calmed down, but now he's scared. Tears began welling up in his eyes, flowing down his cheeks. Who knows what she will do? With thoughts of punishment surfacing in his mind, Krishna sought escape. The nearest door led to the grand hall where the guards are stationed. They will raise the alarm, not a good escape route. The only other way out was back through the kitchen and the bedroom chamber, and then down the back staircase to the courtyard. Krishna carefully opened the door. This is the storehouse door, storeroom door. And carefully holding the pot of butter to his chest, he passed through the open space. Afraid to look in the direction of his mother, Krishna followed his buttery footsteps which he left wherever he went, shedding forced tears as insurance against being caught. He noticed that she had just finished cleaning up. When he reached the broken churn, he was thrilled by his good work and stomped around in the spilled produce for good measure. Then, feeling very satisfied with himself, he left through the back door and down the stairs onto the courtyard. So we look at the next verse in the Bhagavatam, which gives a summary of the pastime. Uttariya gopi shushtam paya puna praveshya shamdrasya cha tati amatrakam bhagnam vilokya swasutasya karma chaj jahasa tam chapina tatra pasyati. Translation: Mother Yashoda, after taking down the hot milk from the oven, returned to the churning spot. And when she saw that the container of yogurt was broken, that Krishna was not present, she concluded that the breaking of the pot was the work of Krishna. While Krishna was busy with his divine mischief, his mother saved most of the milk from overflowing, placing the heavy pot off the fire, cleaning the stove. He then mopped the spilt milk from the floor. He did this as lovingly as she would bathe her son, with the conviction that everything in the house was for Krishna's service and thus as important as him. This is a great mood. Any service we do it carefully, knowing that this is connected to the Supreme. Occasionally, she would glance over to see what Krishna was doing. And Krishna's internal potency, this is the prema potency, arranged that she saw him playing on the floor before an intact churn, patiently waiting for her return. Such a good boy. Yashodamai finally returned to her churning pot, but stopped dead in her tracks at what she saw and exclaimed, Vishnu, Vishnu, what is this? What has happened? She couldn't believe her eyes. At first, she thought that the yogurt had seeped through the pot, and because they're made of clay. But then she noticed the churn had been deliberately broken. It wasn't broken a minute ago while she was looking. So there you go, she's come. And my goodness, what a mess. Who dare do such a thing? Yashodamai remained hesitant to blame her little boy, but no one else was present. Besides, who else could be so clever? This brief admiration of her son gave way to the realization that what the neighbors had been saying about her beloved son is completely correct. He is naughty. So where is he? She ran to the bedchamber and beyond to her dressing area. He was in neither place. Returning to the churning pot, she saw scattered footprints and yogurt handprints on the wall everywhere. But where was he? Not wanting to believe that her son may have been involved in this mayhem. But then it dawned on her that Krishna must be the culprit, and in fear of punishment, he has run away. She smiled at the naughtiness, cleverness, and subsequent flight of her darling son. Yashodamai began to follow Krishna's delicate footprints, and as she did, her motherly pride grew with each step. So there you go. She's following his footprints into the courtyard. Making a show of false anger, she mused, the pranks of my son are unlimited. His every moment increases his pride, and his every theft increases his bliss. Although his acts disrupt our village, they are also a festival of joy for everyone, especially me. Yashodamai saw the storeroom door ajar and her key dangling from the lock. How dare he steal my keys from my private dressing room? Opening the storeroom door wide, she was greeted by a band of panicky crows that had invaded the storeroom through the window and set upon her exposed produce. Her whole stock had become contaminated. Counting the pots, she realized one was missing. She was amazed. At first, she tried to bring some order to the storeroom, collecting the broken parts, etc. But it was too much for one person. What a big mess. How did he manage to make such a mess? Leaving the mess behind, Yashodamai continued searching. She peeked out of a window and saw in the courtyard Krishna standing on the large upturned wooden mortar, clasping his hands to catch the attention of the nearby monkeys. Yashodamai could not believe it, the tenacity of the boy. She watched as the monkeys fearlessly approached Krishna, who sat on the mortar and placed the pot in his lap. Digging into the pot, scooping out a handful of yogurt, he swallowed half and threw the rest to the nearest monkey. All the others crowded around. This is really, truly amazing. Krishna was anxiously looking here and there in case his mother came running after him. Mother, unable to suppress her joy, covered her mouth to keep from laughing. The monkeys and Krishna had a natural affinity for each other. By associating too much with those mischief mongers, my son has become as mischievous as a monkey. It's funny, I was reading the other day how there was one scientist who did some practical exercise. He engaged his son with the monkeys, thinking that the monkeys would develop the qualities of human. But he stopped the practice, he stopped the experiment, because he found that his son was acting like the monkeys. It was the other way around. Anyway. Krishna was, of course, repaying a long-standing debt to the monkeys who assisted him when he came as Ram. But Krishna knew that he had crossed all boundaries, and Mother will have no sympathy for him when she finds him. So as Ram, he took the service of the monkeys. They helped him. This is the beauty of God. Don't have to be rich, famous, powerful, beautiful to serve God. You don't even have to be a human. He accepted the service of the monkeys. Now he was repaying the debt. How kind of the Lord to do this. As Krishna was feeding them makhan. So let's stop there. Any questions, any comments? Okay. Thank you so much for joining today. Lord Damodara ki jai.